Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're opening up a stack of sources to explore a country that feels like it holds everything from ancient forests and dramatic mountains to bustling modern cities and castles right out of a storybook Germany.
Exactly. And our material for this deep dive, well, it gives us two distinct lenses. A really vivid personal account of discovering favorite spots, packed with sensory details.
Right.
And then a more traditional travel guide offering that broader overview, history, culture, practicalities, that sort of thing.
Our goal, to pull the essential insights from these perspectives, to give you that shortcut to really understanding what Germany is all about. Whether you're dreaming of a trip, curious for work, or, just love learning, what gems jump out at you when we combine these views?
Well, right away, the sources paint this picture of Germany as a land just rich in history and culture, but also layered with incredible scenic beauty.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? It's Europe's largest economy, known for efficiency, modernity. But our sources show this really deep connection to tradition, these fairy tale landscapes, and just a truly stunning number of castles.
That blend is compelling.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to unpack it, like our sources do, is to kind of journey through the different regions. Let's start where that personal account takes us with such passion. The stunning south, focusing on Bavaria and the Alps.
You almost have to start with Zugspitze, right? Germany's highest mountain, nearly 3,000 meters tall. It just dominates southern Germany.
And the easiest way up, according to one source, is the cable car. It's a bit of an investment, around 60 euros.
Yeah.
But described as an absolute feat of engineering, maybe a little heart-pounding on the way up.
Apparently the mountain station up there has this slightly ominous feel. Like, one source described it as looking like an evil villain's lair.
Huh, really?
Yeah. But from that platform, you get incredible views of the summit cross. And the source actually talked about climbing right up to the cross, even in the snow, holding onto an iron wire. They called the views unreal.
Wow, that sounds truly adventurous. Definitely not for anyone bothered by heights, I guess.
No kidding. But the scenery sounds immense.
And right below Zugspitze is Lake Eibsee, nicknamed the Maldives of the Alps.
You can see why in the picture shared, can't you? The water is incredibly clear, dotted with these little tree-covered islands.
That watercolor was specifically highlighted as astounding, just amazing.
The recommendation is simply to walk along the lake's edge. There are these beautiful groves, and it sounds like an ideal spot to just find a quiet place on the shoreline and, relax.
Moving deeper into Bavaria, Weigenbrücksee was singled out as exceptionally scenic, a smaller lake tucked into the mountains.
What was lovely about the description was seeing those charming farm sheds scattered across the hillside, all beneath the watchful peaks of the Karwendel Alps. The source even compared it to Alta Badia in the Dolomites.
Accessed via a dirt road, it sounds like a truly peaceful, sort of authentic Bavarian scene, especially perfect for a sunset.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, moving to a town that captures a lot of this southern charm, Berchtesgaden, often called one of Germany's most beautiful towns, right? Nestled in the Alps, maybe 2 hours from Munich.
A standout feature there is the Watzmann Mountain towering over the town. It has this really distinctive, almost jagged shape. One source said it looks like someone took a bite out of it.
And the churches in the area are just postcard perfect. Ramsau Church next to a stream with that classic little bridge.
Oh, yeah.
And Maria Gern Church offers the perfect framed view of that unique Watzmann Mountain.
Now, the sources do touch upon a very specific and historically weighted site near Berchtesgaden, Hitler's Eagle's Nest, the Kelstein House.
Right. The personal account was drawn there by an interest in World War II history.
The site itself, built in 1939, was meant as a gift for Hitler's 50th birthday. You get there by bus up the mountain, then walk through this deep tunnel carved into the rock.
Yeah, that sounds kind of crazy.
Which leads to a circular room and then a golden elevator up into the building. The source reflected on that surreal feeling, walking those same tunnel walls Hitler walked.
It's incredible when you think about the resources involved in the building, and the road cost nearly 200 million euros in today's money.
Exactly. Yet surprisingly, Hitler himself apparently only visited a documented 14 times. Maybe he was afraid of heights or the elevator. Who knows?
Critically, the sources note it wasn't destroyed during the war, unlike so many other places. Today, it's a restaurant with these incredible panoramic views.
And a starting point for hikes into the Berchtesgaden National Park. It's definitely a complex site, presenting that difficult history within just immense natural beauty. The sources seem to handle it by focusing on the physical place and its documented past, neutrally.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also in Berchtesgaden is the stunning Königssee. This lake was carved by glaciers, giving it this dramatic fjord-like feel.
One source compared it to Norway or even New Zealand.
Taking the boat ride seems like a must-do, about 15 euros, 50 minutes or so. The first stop is that famous St. Bartholomew's Church, sitting right there on the peninsula.
Beautiful. And then reaching the end of the lake, there's a short walk, maybe 10 minutes, to Obersee.
Ah, yes. Home to what one source called an iconic lake cut. The scenery there was described as just astounding.
Surrounded by these massive mountain walls, the water is apparently incredibly clear. Sounds like a truly immersive natural experience.
Definitely. Okay, shifting slightly from the high peaks, let's talk Munich, Bavaria's capital. A big, vibrant city, right? Over 3.6 million people, about 50 kilometers from the Alps.
And like so many German cities, Munich endured immense destruction in World War II, over 70 air raids.
But the sources really highlight its incredible restoration, bringing it back to its former glory.
Popular spots include Marienplatz, the main square, dominated by the new town hall, with that famous Glockenspiel clock tower.
Right, with the figurines that move.
Exactly. And the travel guide also points to the magnificent Nymphenburg Palace, a Baroque masterpiece, and the huge English Garden, one of Europe's largest city parks.
A fantastic green space. And of course, Munich is globally famous for Oktoberfest, traditional beer, hearty Bavarian food, the whole culture.
When we think of southern Germany and fairy tales, though, one castle immediately springs to mind, Neuschwanstein, right at the southern edge of the country.
It's been called the most beautiful castle in all Europe, and famously inspired Disney's Sleeping Beauty castle.
It's perched just perfectly in the mountain landscape, offers phenomenal 360-degree views of the Bavarian Alps and the Elbe below.
Construction started relatively recently, 1869, and there's that poignant historical note that during World War II, the SS actually debated destroying it to keep it from the Allies.
Wow, thankfully it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's a major tourist destination now, over 1.4 million visitors a year. Up close, it apparently feels enormous. Really makes you appreciate King Ludwig's, well, imagination.
The source shared that finding a specific vantage point, kind of hidden in the trees, gives you that perfect postcard view.
It truly feels like something out of a Disney fairy tale. And nearby, St. Colomon's Church offers a splendid view of both the castle and the Alps. Sounds like a wonderful spot for sunset with those classic green pastures. It just underscores that feeling from the sources that Germany truly is a magical place.
Okay, moving eastwards now, we encounter Dresden, a city built on the Elbe River near the Czech border.
Dresden was renowned for its stunning Baroque and Rococo architecture. Breathtakingly beautiful before the 20th century, apparently.
Tragically, yes. It was almost completely flattened by air raids during World War II, just reduced to rubble. But the story of its restoration is powerful. It took decades, this painstaking process of rebuilding key landmarks piece by piece.
And today, it stands as one of Germany's most visited cities, nicknamed the Florence of the Elbe, which is quite a testament to its rebirth, isn't it?
Absolutely. And just outside Dresden, in a region called Saxon, Switzerland, there's a unique nature spot, the Bastei Bridge.
This famous rock formation is part of the striking Elbe Sandstone Mountains. It's actually been a tourist draw for over 200 years.
A wooden bridge was first built, connecting some of the rocks back in 1824, later replaced by the stone bridge you see today. Looks like a really cool spot to experience that dramatic geology.
Yeah, it does. Germany's geography is also so defined by its incredible rivers, isn't it? The Danube, the Rhine, the Moselle, arteries connecting cities, towns, countless castles along their banks.
The Danube, Europe's second largest river, actually originates in Germany's Black Forest before flowing all the way to the Black Sea in Romania.
And a favorite city mentioned on the Danube is Passau, right on the Austrian border, known as the City of Three Rivers.
Because it sits right at the confluence of the Danube, the Inn, and the Ilz rivers.
Our sources point out you can actually see the distinct colors of the three rivers swirling together as they merge. That sounds pretty cool to witness.
Doesn't it? And historically, Passau was a major center for sword making during the Renaissance. Imagine that history flowing through the streets. Must have been pretty cool to live in Passau back then, the source says.
Then there's the Rhine, Germany's longest river. Starts in Switzerland, heads north to the North Sea, passing major cities like Cologne and Dusseldorf.
Its banks are just studded with towns and castles. One particularly interesting place mentioned is Pfalzgrafenstein Castle, 14th century. It wasn't really residential.
Right, it was a toll station for ships on the river.
Exactly. They apparently used a chain across the river to stop ships and make sure they paid.
And if a captain was uncooperative, they had a dungeon right there in the castle.
Pretty fascinating, isn't it? A small, isolated fortress just for collecting tolls. Quite unique.
Then there's the Moselle River in western Germany, renowned as prime wine country.
Oh yeah, the hillsides along the Moselle are covered in these steeply terraced vineyards, perfect for growing Riesling grapes. Just an incredibly scenic landscape.
And a notable landmark on the Moselle is Cochem Castle. The original dates back to the 1100s.
And guess what? It also made money collecting shipping tolls.
Yeah.
Seems to be a theme.
Apparently so. It was destroyed in 1689 by the French, but rebuilt much later in 1868 by a wealthy businessman from Berlin.
Right, as a summer residence. It makes for a dramatic sight, perched high on a hill overlooking the town of Cochem in the river.
Okay, heading further west, we encounter more historic cities. Cologne, on the Rhine, has a history stretching back 2,000 years.
Founded in the 1st century AD on major trade routes, it grew into one of the largest cities north of the Alps during medieval and Renaissance times.
But, like Munich and Dresden, Cologne suffered catastrophic damage in World War II, one of the most heavily bombed cities.
But again, the story is one of dedicated rebuilding.
Its most famous landmark, of course, is the Cologne Cathedral. Building started in 1248. Just imagine that.
And wasn't actually finished until 1880, nearly 600 years later.
Incredible. Our sources call it a Gothic masterpiece, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And when you see the details, those soaring arches, the stonework, you understand why the wait was considered worth it.
Absolutely. Now, Frankfurt, in west central Germany, presents a bit of a different face, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a major European financial hub, home to the European Central Bank.
Which gives it that skyline full of skyscrapers. One source felt it reminded them of American cities.
But alongside the modern towers, there's also a beautiful historical core.
Right, the Rommerberg, its town square. A popular spot lined with those wonderful, colorful timber-framed houses. That really gives you the classic Germantown feeling, doesn't it?
Totally gets your German vibes going, as one source put it. Then about an hour's drive from Frankfurt is Heidelberg, historic, undeniably charming city on the Neckar River.
Probably best known for its university, founded over 600 years ago, Germany's oldest.
Wow, would be so cool to study there, the source said.
I bet. One source particularly loved the city's bridges across the Neckar, noting how well designed they are. Reflected that Germany really seems to know how to design a beautiful city that integrates with its natural setting.
And the travel guide highlights Heidelberg Castle overlooking the river too. Perfect for a romantic getaway, maybe.
Sounds like it. Okay, southwestern Germany, right near the French border, the legendary Black Forest region.
It really lives up to its name, doesn't it? Dense forests, picturesque villages. It's the landscape often associated with the Brothers Grimm's fairy tales.
Freiburg was mentioned as a notable city in the region, a vibrant university town known for its architecture.
It sounds like an absolute paradise for nature lovers. Fantastic trails for hiking, cycling, exploring. One source just said they'd love to just road trip to the Black Forest.
I can see why. Now, we've touched on some amazing castles and medieval towns already, but the sources highlight a couple more that truly stand out for their fairy tale qualities.
First, Rothenburg ob der Tauber, described as a truly magical village.
Visiting there really feels like stepping onto a movie set, doesn't it? Maybe a fantasy film. It's incredibly well preserved, one of the most intact medieval old towns in Europe.
It thrived in the Middle Ages, sitting at the crossroads of important trade routes. Grew to be one of Germany's largest cities by the early 15th century.
But then in the 17th century, it faced severe hardships. The 30 Years' War, the bubonic plague. Its growth basically just stopped.
Because it lacked the resources for big rebuilding or modernization.
Yeah.
And ironically, that lack of progress is exactly what preserved it so perfectly in its medieval state.
So its enduring medieval charm is kind of a direct result of past adversity.
Yeah.
It's even said to have inspired sets for Disney movies like Pinocchio.
Key sites include the famous plumb line, that iconic floating corner view, and the stunning Christmas markets if you visit in winter. The history and atmosphere give this village incredible lore, hard to beat, really.
And then there's Hohenzollern Castle. One source called it one of the most impressive castles in all of Germany.
It sits dramatically and perfectly atop Mount Hohenzollern, designed to be seen from miles away.
The castle you see today is actually the last of 3 built on that strategic hill, completed in 1867, mainly as a memorial to the Prussian royal family.
It's now one of Germany's most visited castles. And looking at pictures, yeah, you can understand why. It looks formidable and just grand.
Okay, finally, let's journey north, to the major cities and the coast. Berlin, the capital, an immense city with such a profound and, well, complicated history.
Documented since the 13th century, it became the headquarters of Hitler's Third Reich during World War II, and as a result endured some of the most intense bombing in history.
And after the war, it was famously divided, wasn't it? East and West Berlin. That physical and ideological split defined the Cold War era.
Until it finally reunited in 1990. Key landmarks reflecting this history include the Brandenburg Gate 18th century monument, now Germany's symbol of unity and peace.
And the Berlin Wall Memorial, where you can still see remnants of that historic division. It's quite powerful.
The travel guide adds other important sites like the Reichstag Parliament Building and the famous Museum Island with the Pergamon Museum and others.
And it also highlights Berlin's vibrant, modern life neighborhoods like Kreuzberg, Prenzlauer Berg, known for cafes, street art, nightlife. It's a city with many layers.
Definitely. Further north, Hamburg, Germany's second largest city on the Elbe River with access to the North Sea.
Its location made it a crucial port city for centuries. Today, it's Europe's 3rd largest port.
What's immediately striking, according to our sources, are the canals weaving through the city. One source said it reminded them of a modern-day Venice.
And here's a surprising fact. Hamburg has the highest number of bridges in Europe, over 2,500.
Wow, more than Venice and Amsterdam combined.
Apparently so. The Speicherstadt, the world's largest warehouse district, is an impressive historical area. And the Ulster Lakes, 2 artificial lakes in the city center, are beautiful spots, often full of sailboats in summer. The guide captures its lively maritime atmosphere.
About an hour's drive from Hamburg, on the Baltic coast, is Lübeck, second largest city in this northern coastal region.
Lübeck holds significant history as the de facto capital of the Hanseatic League, that powerful medieval trade organization.
Right, 13th to 15th centuries. It remained an important trading town long after the League's influence waned, too.
It's known as the City of 7 Towers because of its prominent church spires, considered one of northern Germany's most beautiful cities.
A favorite feature mentioned is the Holstentor, built in 1464 as a city gate, now a museum and a symbol of Lübeck.
One source loved its distinctive look, 2 strong Gothic towers that noticeably lean. Such an incredible structure, they said.
From Lübeck, you can easily explore the Baltic coast itself. The Brattener Steilefer offers beautiful coastal cliffs, great views of the Baltic Sea, sounds perfect for a walk.
And Scharbeutz provides a massive beach and a long pier stretching out into the sea.
Finally, in the north, Schwerin Castle, about an hour from Hamburg.
This beautiful palace is uniquely situated on an island in Lake Schwerin. There's been a structure there since the 10th century. But most of what we see today was built in the 19th century.
It's celebrated as one of Europe's finest examples of romantic architecture, sometimes nicknamed the Neuschwanstein of the North.
Which gives you a good sense of its fairy tale appearance, right?
Exactly. Now, our travel guide also offers some valuable nuggets about German culture and cuisine, beyond just the sights.
Right. Germany has this rich, diverse culture with deep historical ties to classical music. Think Beethoven, Bach philosophy, art.
And the cuisine is described as hearty and satisfying. The classics mentioned are sauerbraten, bratwurst, pretzels, and käsespätzle.
Yes, Germany's delicious take on mac and cheese, basically.
And of course, German beer is world famous. The sources highlight that experience of visiting a traditional beer hall, especially in Munich, trying a crisp Pilsner or a cloudy Weissbier.
Essential experiences. Finally, some quick travel tips from the guide to round out our understanding.
The currency is the euro. German is the official language, but English is widely spoken, especially in cities and tourist areas, thankfully.
Best times to visit are typically May to September for pleasant weather and festivals.
Or December, if you want those magical Christmas markets.
And transportation is a major strength. Excellent public transport. The Deutsche Bahn train network connects cities efficiently. And within cities, buses, trams, subways are easy to navigate.
Okay, so pulling this all together and bringing it back to you, our listener, what are the big takeaways here? How does exploring these varied sources, from personal stories to travel guides, help you become well-informed? Whether you're planning a trip learning for a reason, or just, curious?
Well, I think it's about getting those really specific, memorable details, like Hamburg having thousands of bridges, or how Rothenburg's economic hardship actually preserved its medieval look.
Right, or the incredible scale of rebuilding cities like Dresden and Cologne after the war. These are the aha moments, aren't they? They stick with you.
Exactly. They give you that deeper understanding without feeling like you're buried in information.
We've journeyed across Germany in this deep dive, haven't we? From the rugged Alps and serene lakes to historic rivers, medieval towns, bustling financial centers, and dynamic northern ports.
It's clear that Germany is a place of immense natural beauty, but also complex history and incredible resilience.
Absolutely. So here's something to ponder as you digest all this. When we look at how places like Rothenburg were sort of unintentionally preserved in time by difficult circumstances, and contrast that with the deliberate, painstaking, decades-long efforts to rebuild cities like Dresden and Cologne from utter destruction, what does this tension, this contrast between preservation through hardship and rebuilding from ruin, tell us about the spirit and identity of Germany today?